of this. Day 4 is the day that India would look to pull a test back in this 5-match series. They are in a commanding position. All that stands between them and a 2-1 scoreline is 10 English wickets. Will they get them today, or will we be in for a surprise, and will we take this game today 5 courtesy England? All that and more on ESPN Cricket for Matchday. I am Rana Kapoor. Akash Chopra slotted back in next to me to ensure this is a day that India complete the honours. Stephen Harmison from London, and we'll also get Melinda Farrell from Trent Bridge to tell us if there's any weather at all that will come to England's aid. Let me ask you at the top itself, is this the last day we're going to work on this test?
Yes, I think this is going to be the last day. That's what I promised my family, that tomorrow I'll take them out for lunch.
This is what happens in a long test series for cricketers that work around the year.
Sorry.
You pick on little things like a 4-day match or a 3-day match. Steve Harmison would also love to tell his family that he's got the day off tomorrow. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, my daughter's expecting, or due date expecting a baby, so I could be a grandfather tomorrow, and that's she's due tomorrow. But I think the imminent arrival is hanging on. So hopefully, like England's batsmen, they're going to hang on as well.
Oh my, lovely. We cannot, and I must tell our viewers that Steve Harmison, as young and dashing as he looks at your screens, indeed is telling the truth. He's going to be a grandfather at 40. So our best wishes to Steve and the family. And let's go to Melinda Farrell at Trent Bridge to also see if there's any weather around that could come to England's aid. There's also some injury concerns surrounding Johnny Bairstow, I believe, had a net in the morning. Mel, what have you got for us?
Well, it is actually quite a lovely morning now. There's a cloud around, but the sun's peeking through, making every effort. So there's no real rain forecast today. There was some talk there might be tomorrow, but I've been checking that religiously, and maybe about 20% chance throughout the day of showers. So it's certainly not the sort of forecast that you would want to be banking on to save your bacon in this match. So England, I don't think, would be able to rely on that. Now, the word on Johnny Bairstow, he has been in the nets this morning. He's basically got a plastic protector on the outside of his glove, his left glove, where he fractured that finger yesterday. So you'll see him with that. There's no word yet on where he might bat. Obviously, England are just going to wait and see what happens. They'll be hoping, of course, that he won't have to bat at all, at least not until tomorrow, if they can manage to get some decent partnerships going and just manage to sort of take this game into the 5th day if possible. I don't think many people are giving him much of a chance of anything else, although our cameraman keeps saying Keaton Jennings is on for a double century. So if he gets that, then I'm going to have to take the cameraman out for dinner.
Is this the first time the cameraman's watching a game of Test cricket then, Mel? I wonder. But anyway, I think you've seen the weather report. Very, very fine with the fine print, because you've got your studious glasses on too. One memo's being circulated around just before we went on air was that the possibility of Alistair Cook missing out on the next test with the birth of his child due at around the same time, which would not only break this tremendous record that he's had of consecutive tests for England, but it could open up a conversation which I'll have with Steve and Akash too about who are the possible replacements. What are you hearing? Is that something that could happen?
Yeah, there was a little bit of talk about that last night, and there is a report in the Daily Mail. So Alistair Cook's wife Alice is pregnant with their 3rd child, and there is some talk that maybe he might skip the next test should that occur at the same time as the birth. And it does make it interesting. It's, as you say, a record number of consecutive tests, 157 including this one. So that would break quite an impressive streak by Alistair Cook. But it raises an interesting proposition, because obviously there's been so much talk about his form, and as Steve himself said yesterday on the show, you know, you don't drop Alistair Cook, he retires. But maybe this would give an opportunity for them to bring in someone else, and just, it's almost like a free trial, isn't it? If you're forced to bring someone in and get them to bat at the top, then you can at least see how they go without making it seem like you're dropping Alistair Cook.
All right. Well, again, we must say that this is only initial word now. We can't confirm whether this is indeed news, but speculation and what this fourth test lineup could look like, given how things have been. Melinda Farrell, many thanks for updates from Trent Bridge. We will get your thoughts as this day in this series goes on. Right, let's take the conversation forward. It's about Alistair Cook a lot on day 4, because if England can bat the first session like India batted yesterday, go without a wicket, then suddenly we can entertain thoughts of an alternate result than an India win.
Yes, there is an outside possibility / a miracle if that were to happen, because if the weather stays clear, and that's what the forecast looks like, I can't see England batting out 2 days. We're talking 180 more overs for a side that got bundled out in a session in the first innings of the same test match. Bairstow with his injury, you look at their opening combination, which hasn't really fired. Alistair Cook has got steel, has got pedigree, he's got class, but he doesn't have the runs that you need at this point in time. Keaton Jennings has dropped enough catches to have his confidence hitting the lowest ebb. You've got Pope at 4, who there's a lot of hope. But then Pope hasn't really done enough yet for me to entertain the thoughts of him doing what VVS Lakshman and Rahul Dravid did in 2001. You know, it's an uphill task. You can entertain those thoughts, but realistically, I don't see that happening. I think this game has already slipped away from England's grasp.
Just for the sake of the argument, to humour ourselves, we've got the numbers on the longest that England have actually batted in the fourth innings. We'll just fire those for you. And they've got 2 guys that can bat for long periods of time. There's Alistair Cook in this team, there's Joe Root in this team. But the most overs played by England in the fourth innings in the last 3 years, you're looking at no more than 137. Of course, in all those cases, from 60 to 137, they did end up losing. That having been said, they've got a mammoth task ahead of them. 140, 150 overs is not something teams bat out. And if you think if they do manage to bat 140 overs, you can even entertain the possibility of a win. But all that is just academic at this point. Steve Harmison, batsmen and batting teams generally don't have the appetite to bat long periods anymore. We've spoken of it as a result of technique and whatnot. Would be a nice time to try and change that, but realistically that's not a possibility, is it?
Yeah, it would be a nice time to change it, but I agree. I don't think it is a possibility, not in the modern day game and the way the modern day player is. And I think what happens then is you're asking the modern day player to change their way, and when you change their way, there's a little bit of muddled thinking, a little bit of apprehension, and 9 times out of 10 that's when you succumb and you get out. So I can't see this. I could possibly see it going into day 5, but I can't see it going anywhere near sort of between lunch and tea on day 5. The way England are performing tells you. The history of the game, great games, been going for over 100 years, been going thousands and thousands of test matches, and for me, I'm not really a stats man, a massive stats man, but the biggest stat in the whole history of the game of cricket is that no team has chased more than 425, sure, something like that. So that tells you that this is virtually impossible. So okay, what England haven't got to do is get themselves in a position to put them under so much pressure and dent their confidence so much that it's going to hamper the last 2 test matches. If England get bowled out in a session and a half, then all of a sudden India are thinking, right, we've won this series. Are we going to win this series? If England can bat for 4 sessions, then all of a sudden England's confidence, people are getting more practice in the middle, getting understanding of the Indian bowlers, and then it makes for England with saying to them, right, we'll win one of the last 2 test matches, and who cares what happened at Trent Bridge, we won the series.
That's a nice point Steve makes. So will it make that much of a difference for India if, say, England are bowled out in 2 sessions today or 2.5 sessions today, or if they take this today? Because the India win, weather notwithstanding, is inevitable.
Correct. It's I think from England's perspective, this is exactly what they would want. bat at least 4 sessions. Even though England is leading, what, 2-0 in this series thus far, they would still be leading the series even if they were to lose this test match. They haven't really batted 5.5 sessions just yet. So that also tells you that there are chinks in their armor. There are some concerns with regards to the batting order, and they also will have to tell themselves that they can actually bat for that long, and that will dent India's confidence. Because at this point in time, I'm completely in line with what Stephen has just said. If as a team you see or you roll over the side twice in 40 overs, 50 overs, you know that your tails are up, you know that this series can go anywhere, and you stop looking at the scoreline as it stands right now, where India is actually trailing. Even if they were to win, 1-2 is not a great result after 3 test matches with 2 matches to play. So you need to win the remaining 2 to win the series at most. Otherwise, you'll end up drawing the series with a drawn game thrown into the mix. So from India's perspective, yes, roll them over if it's possible.
The way these teams are batting a drawn game is hard to get because things are ending in 3 days, 4 days, so even if you do have rain. But it's a chat we had yesterday with VVS Lakshman too, Steve. That third innings for India, the one that's just gone by, it could have been one where India didn't necessarily need to bat as long. They were anyway so far ahead. But the fact that Pujara's among the runs, the openers are among the runs, even Rahane's got a few, Hardik's got a few, makes them feel good. Look at England's lineup now. Jennings, desperate for runs. Ollie Pope wouldn't mind a few. Joss Butler's not got too many. Would this be the final opportunity for some? We've seen these new selectors chop and change a bit. David Malan missed out after just the first test. Possible that there's a little bit of pressure on some of these guys?
Yeah, I think there is. I think, look, to be fair, there's pressure on every time you play Test cricket. You know, you're on a off. You're one of 11 best players in a country which has got a lot of players that want to play cricket for England. So there is pressure whenever you represent your country. But there's added pressure now when things haven't gone as well. There's question marks on a few people's places. You know, there's a question mark on the selectors as well, in a big way here. They've took a gamble on 2 or 3 places. There's talk about Johnny Bairstow not playing in the next Test match because of broken finger. So then who replaces Johnny Bairstow? There's talk about Alistair Cook not playing, like Melinda's already mentioned. So there's already a gap coming there. There's even talk of Ian Bell coming back into the Test match arena at 36.
Whoa, okay.
That's how much England need a bit of stability in that middle order. So when you're looking at that, there's people got to be looking. Them top 6 batsmen are looking over the shoulder and thinking, right, I better score some runs here, because if I don't, Ian Bell walks back into that Test arena, gets 100. Ian Bell stay for a while. He's got 8,000 Test runs. He shouldn't, in his eyes, he shouldn't have been dropped in the first place. That's if he comes back in. So there's definitely going to be one change for the next Test match in the top order batting. But if people don't start performing, that person, Johnny Bairstow, will come back as soon as he's fit. Alistair Cook, if he misses, will come back as soon as he's fit. So then, if that player comes in and performs, then these players that are in the team have got to be thinking, I better get my finger out, because I better score some runs, because if not, I'm going to be the one that misses out next time. So we'll have that in their mind. But when they go out to bat, the only thing they can focus on is what they can do to basically change the game and the course of what's happening at this moment in time. And that's bat the way they bat, and understand the situation is not dire. It's basically trying to get themselves in a position to do well for their team. Because if they don't, they're just going to be sitting ducks.
Well, I mean, Steve has given us so much that's raised our eyebrows. I mean, the talk that possibly a return for Ian Bell. We know England have, even with the way they've been selecting, they acknowledge that there is a problem finding a solid, steady batting lineup.
True. If they're actually looking at Ian Bell as a replacement and a possibility, then it cannot be a short-term quick fix, in my opinion, because if you're looking at somebody who's not been a part of the system for a little while, but you now go back to him, that reflects desperate times. And if you've taken a desperate measure and you bring somebody of his caliber, his repute, with his kind of test record, then you got to give him some more time, irrespective of what he does in that one game that he plays. So there is pressure, there will always be pressure, but what intrigues me or fascinates me is the fact that 12 openers, a dozen of openers have been tried to partner Alistair Cook. We still haven't got the answer. Alistair Cook, in my opinion, the best is behind him. what we are seeing with him is the fact that shadows are now getting longer as the sun is setting on his wonderful career. So it's only a matter of time when he bids goodbye to this wonderful game with all the wonderful runs that he has scored. But what next? Number 4 is a critical position in a test match, at times even more critical than an opener, and that's where you slot your best batsman in, Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli for India. But who is batting at number 4? That's a question that's not been answered yet. All-rounders are wonderful as long as they're pulling their weight in the side time and again with one discipline alone. So that's where the question for Jos Buttler. Ben Stokes will always fit in. But what about Jos Buttler? He hasn't got runs since that test match against Pakistan, and he's elevated to already the vice captain of the test side. So these are some brave calls that's been taken, but loss generally leads to a few more calls being taken.
And certainly you don't look at them as brave, you know.
Correct.
You look at them as gambles that haven't paid off. This is a new selection committee too, with Ed Smith and James Taylor added to it. I'm just looking at the time that Akash and Steve had brought up this conversation just to humour ourselves. Ian Bell back in the England Test squad. Just looking, so he's got some runs in the County Championship Division too. He averages over 50 for Warwickshire this season. So I'm going to go to Steve Amerson and actually ask him if the man that he's played a fair amount of Test cricket with is someone he would back. Let's say you were selector, Steve. Is he right up there from the number of people you'd put into this team in the current situation? 2-1 down in the series. Are there other young kids that you think could get a go? What's your assessment of the available options?
Well, what you've got at this moment in time, there's 3 names in the England selectors' minds at this moment in time. You've got David Millan, who the chairman of selectors has admitted when he left him out that he's more suited to play from away from home than he is to play at home. So that's a great endorsement from the chairman of selectors about one player who he's left out. So there's one. You've got James Vince, who they brought back 3 times, who got 220 runs in this last county championship round of matches, playing very well. But again, England have left him out. Or you've got Ian Bell, 36-year-old, 8,000 test runs. You're 2-1 up in a series against India. If Alistair Cook misses the test match, for me, you pick Ian Bell to get me through till the end of summer and win the test series. We're not playing Zimbabwe. We're not playing the West Indies. We're playing India. We're playing an iconic series against India over 5 test matches, and at the Oval. Results mean everything to me, and I want to be in a position as a chairman of selectors to win the test matches. And the person I think I would pick to bat at number 4 and Ollie Pope at number 5 in the next test match would be Ian Bell if Johnny Bairstow's not fit to play. Because you're not looking for a long-term replacement, because Johnny Bairstow's coming back. Johnny Bairstow's not going out of the team for anything other than a broken finger. He's coming back. I'll be saying to Ian Bell, do me a favour, come back and play for these last 2 test matches and finish your career strong. And if he scores runs at the end of the series, I've got a decision make, but it's a good decision make as a chairman of selectors. Yeah. And that's the way I'd go. If Cook has to miss out, well, you've got Burns, you've got Gubbins, you've got people like that who are a different discipline going. But Vince has got a few runs, but I'd go with experience, and I'm going for Ian Bell.
It's almost inconceivable in an Indian parallel to think that we call back someone who's been a legend of the team, who's still probably playing first-class cricket, and say, okay, do us a job for a little while. If you get runs, we'll take it from there.
India did that with Gautam Gambhir not too long ago. They got him back. He got a 50, and then he had only 2 bad innings in 1 test match against England, and then he was shelved. So it was when they got Gautam Gambhir back, they thought that he's going to be a slightly long-term solution. That's why it was not just limited to that series against New Zealand, desperate times, get an opener, everybody else is injured. They were very quick to look away the moment he failed in a couple of innings. I hope that doesn't happen with Ian Bell, for example. Yes, if I can understand if you can get him for a couple of test matches. Personally, I don't like the idea of getting someone back only for a couple of test matches and tell him that these are the 2 test matches. And that's where I will tell you, okay, bye, thank you.
Well,
you did a job.
Provided he doesn't get some runs. If he gets some runs, then the narrative changes. Steve's saying at this point, invest in the experience of Ian Bell because he's getting runs in county cricket.
So, but my question is that if you are investing, again, hypothetical situation, if they were to invest, then 2 test matches, 4 innings. If he's good enough for those 4 innings, why is he not good enough for 4 more? Because the other options that are available around me are not that tempting, and therefore I'm going to a guy who's served the country for long, who scored 8,000 test runs. So why not stick with him for a little longer once you've gone back to him? See, the moment you go backwards, it comes with its own problems, set of problems. So I personally don't like the idea of going back, but if you are forced to go back, then be with him for a little while.
I think it just adds a brilliant new dimension to the story of the England-India Test series. So I was wondering what we talk about, because the inevitable is upon us on day 4. But Steve Amerson has thrown up a wonderful chat of discussion regarding Ian Bell and who England could look at if they are looking for some drastic options. Anyway, we'll build up to that 4 days play after this short break. Stay with us on ESPN Cricket for Matchday.
Catch the best of the England-India series on ESPN Cricinfo. Match highlights, clips and the best moments. Download the app now for a better experience.
Looking ahead then to the first session of play on day 4, which India would hope to start well. Now, it was a testing, probing time for England's openers last evening. They had about 9-10 overs to face, and Ishant Sharma asked a lot of questions. So let's just talk about that now. Discussion we were having towards the end of the day yesterday, Akash, with VVS Lakshman, was this transformed Ishant Sharma and whether the time in England has made such a big difference or whatnot. Is this the best you've seen him bowl?
Yes, this is the best I've seen him bowl. You know, I have seen him progress. In fact, I saw him even before he played for India. He was playing for Delhi, and the day I saw him, all of us actually, not just me, all of us knew that he'll be playing for India very soon. It was only a matter of time, because he was bringing something to the table that cannot be taught, 1, and 2, that was exceptional. The bounce that he was getting, the accuracy that he had at that point in time, and the seam movement. We see a lot of bowlers with the movement in the air. But somebody who's consistently moving the ball laterally off the surface is that much tougher to play, and that's a rarity in India. Most of our bowlers are swing bowlers, but he was a rare find. I expected him to do a lot better over the years. I don't think he's evolved as much as he should have, and numbers are there to just vindicate that point. But now he's bowling beautifully. The wrist is firmly behind the ball. He's making the ball swing in the air, which was never his forte. And he's bowling a yard fuller. And it's just a couple of foot. That's what is making the difference. You bowl that much shorter, you look very good on TV screens where the ball carries, the batsman gets beaten. Keeper is collecting the gloves with or rather the ball with his fingers pointing upwards, and just pitching the ball that much fuller where you open up the options of dismissing the batsman bowl, leg before, and of course caught behind once in a while. But he is bowling a lot better, the best that I have seen him bowl for a long time.
I mean, it seems like that right arm round the wicket angle to the left-hander Steve Amerson seems to be one that, you know, is just going to keep troubling both Jennings and Cook, because you feel like the angle's going to come towards off stump. You have to play, and he gets to take it away. I know you can't see us, but if you can take me through just what you've observed on Ishant Sharma's wrist. We've seen a difference. We never associated him with getting swing. We always thought he's more something happening off the deck, more seam, that sort of bowler. But anything that you've observed that's allowing Ishant to get this beautiful shape that is troubling the left-handers?
Yeah, I think what Ishant's done now is he's give his captain he's give his captain the confidence to say, throw them the ball and say, here, right, and your captain knows what he's going to get. I think in previous times, I think the captain's always been apprehensive of when to bowl Ishant and how you're going to use him, because you just weren't sure what you're going to get with him. I think what you've got with him now, this round the wicket left-hander is perfect for him. It just seems that it's a natural angle for him to bowl to left-handers. And I think what he's done is he's somehow got himself in a position to get the seam upright. So whether he's been working on the seam position in his fingers and the release position of his wrist, because what he's doing is, if you watch Bumrah in the first innings, you know, they were talking about why he took the new ball. He's never ever going to be able to swing it because of the way the ball was coming out of his hand. The wrist position wasn't in a bad place, but the actual seam position when it was leaving his fingers was all over the place, and the ball wasn't coming down. The seam wasn't coming down straight. You're going to get a little bit of nip off the seam, but you're not going to get the ball to move laterally through the air. But the one thing that Sharma's done, Ishant Sharma's done the last, I don't know how long, but it definitely in this series, he's got the seam absolutely bolt upright. When you've got the seam bolt upright, you've got a good chance of it swinging, especially in England, especially in English conditions, and that's where he's being dangerous. And it just seems that round the wicket, the little angle off his wrist just makes it just go away just enough to trouble the left-hander's outside edge. Today, though, in this game, and the fifth day pitch at Trent Bridge, I think he's going to be more trouble to the right-handers, because if he bowls over the wicket and he attacks off stump with that little slight angle in, the one thing about Trent Bridge is in the fourth and fifth day and the latter part of the Test match, it tends to go down rather than up. So if he bowls onto off stump, he'll get a lot of LBW and bowls in this fourth innings if he gets it right.
All right, now we have seen as the day goes on, there is the chance that either the pitch slows up or it doesn't swing as much. Would R. Ashwin be called upon? He was, of course, injured for a large part of that first innings, but Hardik Pandya stepped up to it. Would India need his services? We saw Adil Rashid do a lot of bowling for England.
Well, he did bowl a couple of overs yesterday as well. That's Ravichandran Ashwin. He's had a night rest. I hope he's recovered a little at least as compared to what he was yesterday, and he might be called upon. So don't expect England to just completely surrender and go away. You expect them to play a little better than what they've done in the past. This pitch, it may start playing slightly uneven, and that's been there for the last day and a half. We've started seeing some balls keeping a lot lower than they were on day one. So you would expect faster bowlers to do what they are doing.
Sure.
Hardik Pandya not to be the same force as he was in the first innings, because once that's happening, you need a bit more pace to push the batsman back on the back foot and be more circumspect of playing or coming on the front foot. Hardik is not that kind of bowler. With that kind of discipline, he may end up actually taking another 5 for all we know. That's the kind of test match he's having. But Ravichandran Ashwin will be needed is what I feel. For India's sake, the lesser he bowls, the better it is, so that he stays fit, or rather stays slightly fresher for the break that we have in between. Otherwise, he will be called upon for sure.
There was a bit of turn Adil Rashid was getting. I don't know if he bowled the most because of where England were in the game, Steve, but is this the kind of pitch that you'd want a spinner bowling from one end for a long time?
It is, yeah, and I think from an England point of view, the longer Ashwin's out there, you would think that the less effective he probably will be because of his body, not because of his bowling, because of his body, because he looked as though he was in a lot of pain last night when he was bowling. So if England can keep him out there till sort of tea time, after tea time, you think that Ashwin's going to really struggle to get through. This is probably the one place in England where spin is, it's not so much for the spin. You're not relying on spin overly much in the fourth innings because of that up and down movement that the seamers can get to it, especially the tall bowlers that hit the deck. So there might have been India might have been a bit lucky here that the pitch might go up and down, more down than up, where Ashwin doesn't have to bowl as much, because England will be saying in that dressing room, the longer we bat, the longer Ashwin's out there, the more, not only the more tired he's going to get, the more sore he's going to get, and hopefully that's going to rub off on how effective he is in the bowling department.
Many thanks, Stephen Amerson. Thank you, Akash Chopra. Get your thoughts at lunchtime to see how close we are to either a finish or whether we have England surprising us and stalling what we think now is the inevitable. Eyes on the game and ESPNcricinfo.com for live clips and highlights. We'll see you for our lunchtime show on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday.